What is up? It's Sunday, and that means it's time for the Sunday sermon with me, Mike, your mentor. Hope you had a good weekend, fellas. We're going to jump into this here in a minute. If you're watching the replay, I hope you enjoy tonight's content. You know, the Sunday sermon started off with us talking about, or me, I guess, talking about the various things that I've been through in my life as my life escalated. And now that I get to where I'm at now, there's not a whole lot of drama, I guess you could call it. And the direction that the Sunday sermon is kind of going to take is more on sharing specific points of wisdom and guidance, and just maybe looking at things from a more general viewpoint. So if you're new to this page and this is the first time you're checking out any of my videos, hey, welcome. My job here is to be your friend and to love you as another brother. And maybe you say, well, how's that possible? You don't even know me. I don't need to know you. I know without a shadow of a doubt what's in the hearts of men, and that's greatness. That's a higher calling. All men want to rise to the expectation. We want to be challenged. We want something worth fighting for, right? And a lot of that has vanished in our society, especially in Western culture. As men, I guess, take a little bit of a beating everywhere they go, and it's not to say that it's not deserved. Because for a long time we haven't done what men are supposed to do, which is take responsibility for things, which is show up, which is to answer the higher calling that's on our lives as fathers, as husbands, as friends, and members of the community. So real quick, my story is I grew up without a dad in my life consistently. Younger age, he was in and out of prison multiple times. And then when he got out for the last time, he disappeared for a number of years. And then I was 15, and he came back into our lives, started living with us, and it was a dream come true. That's everything I always wanted as a little boy, right? Is my dad to be there to see me play football games and play basketball, and to hang out in the yard throwing the baseball, all those things that a little boy wants to do with his dad that I never really got to experience. But that was short-lived, and it ended up with a huge blowout, and my dad being high and getting in his semi-truck and driving off down the road and disappearing again. And that started a series of him coming and going about every 2 years in my life, throughout the rest of my teenage years and into my young adult years, until he finally died when I graduated from college. And how do you take all that anger? How do you deal with all that shame, all these feelings that have built up over all these years that I never got to express to my dad, and that just finally bubbled over at his funeral, right? And I had to learn how to deal with that. And on top of that, as I was entering into the world on my own, with no one else around, right? And it was just me. I was responsible for myself. No one at school, no coach. It's just me, myself, and I, right? Like, what does it look like to be a man? And I started asking these questions and thinking about those types of things, because I didn't know. What naturally came to my mind was to just do everything that my dad didn't do, because I didn't see him as a man in a lot of aspects. And that's what this page is about, right? Is I was able to make it through all those years, despite all the crazy situations that I was in, because one, God's grace was on my life, and without Him I wouldn't be here today. And two, I had mentors in my life. Mentors through books that I was reading, mentors physically in my life, whether they were coaches, whether they were fathers of other guys that I hung out with, other kids, other teammates, who held me to a higher standard, who showed me what it was like to live a life full of purpose, one full of honor, in what it looked like to take care of their families, to take care of the people in their community, and to just take this narrow path, right, the road less traveled, especially when things got tough, to stick it out in their marriages, to fight the good fight each and every day. And so that's why this is called Mike Your Mentor, because I'm taking all those seeds that were planted in me, and I'm trying to sow them back into other people. And it doesn't matter if you're older than me, it doesn't matter if you're younger than me. Wisdom is wisdom. It knows no color, no race, no religion, it doesn't care about any of that stuff. It just is what it is. So you can either seek it, right? Seek it out and learn about it, or you can ignore it and continue to go through your life with blind spots, right? You can continue to struggle with having real relationships, or deeper, meaningful relationships with those around you. And the biggest thing is you can continue going through life lying to yourself and lying to others around you, lying to yourself about how you feel, lying to yourself about what a certain situation did or didn't do to you, lying to yourself about what happened to you in your past and how it affects you now in every area of your life. Or you can man up, right? And find out what you don't know. And what you don't know is the stuff that we talk about on this channel. And it's not to say that I'm some great know-it-all expert guru. I'm not. I just know what it was like to go through life without before I heard a lot of this stuff. Because this stuff isn't taught in school. This stuff isn't, there's no class that's being held. Well, there's no university that teaches this stuff, right? You got to actively seek this stuff out. And what you don't know, you don't know. And having learned this stuff, it was like a light bulb that came on inside me. It was like this giant was unleashed, right? I finally could piece together, like all the puzzle pieces came together, and I could see exactly how these situations in my past had affected me up until this point. And now that I knew that, I had a choice on how I was going to live my life moving forward. And that was very empowering, right? It was very empowering to let go of a lot of stuff from my past that I had been carrying, and to just drop that off and say, nope, not doing it anymore. I'm getting over that. I'm leaving that behind. That is not who I am. I am not defined by those choices, all those types of things, and to experience the freedom that comes with that. And it ain't easy. It ain't easy at all. I ran from those things for a long time, because it's scary to go back and to look those demons, to look those things in the eye, and to deal with them, and to know that you got to do something about them if you want to experience a richer and fuller life. So that's what this channel is about. Enough of the blabbing from me on that. We're going to jump into tonight's content on the Sunday sermon, and share with you guys something that I think is really important. And when you can change your perspective on things, you can start to change your life. So let me share my screen with you guys here, and we will get in. So here we go. Sunday sermon, episode 19, week 19. I call this Lessons Learned. And this is a little screenshot from one of the greatest all-time movies, The Karate Kid. Man, I remember, quick little sidetrack on this. I remember when this came out, and I was pumped, right? I think when this came out, every kid that saw this wanted to learn karate. I'm sure all the karate dojos just exploded after this movie. But, I really related to this movie. They did a good job, of building up the hero and the character. Daniel LaRusso, was this out-of-town kid who doesn't belong, who doesn't look like the people that that he lives among, and that's how I felt. I've shared before, being a mixed kid growing up, I always felt like I was too white for the black kids, and I was too black for the white kids. So there was there's nowhere to fit in this movie. Just I don't know, it just put a little bit of hope inside me, right? Made me wanna get tough, made me wanna face some of my fears, deal with some of the bullies maybe that I had in my life. But it was a very empowering movie, I guess, at that time. So you got Daniel LaRusso and Mr. Miyagi. So the question, Miyagi-san, and that was Mr. Miyagi's favorite saying, Miyagi-san, is, I guess, appropriately today, how does someone born into a life like mine make something out of themselves? And right, how do you, and I've asked this question of myself lots of times, right? Born into poverty, born into a family situation where the father is not there, you know, later on in life, you have all this dysfunction and this chaos, and just, and I want to be honoring of what I'm saying, and so I'm not going to really talk about maybe some of the specifics, but from a high level, just how do you deal with that? How do you manage? How do you go on about your day? And being a kid, I think you're very resilient, right? Like, and there was stuff to keep my mind distracted. At times, sports, school, playing with the neighborhood kids and running around. But you get to be a certain age where you start to notice certain things. Like, hey, other people, they got their dads are here, on family night. Where's my dad? What you start asking questions. Like, why doesn't my dad want to be in my life? Like, why am I not important enough to him? Or why am I not the most important thing to him? Why is he choosing these other things over me? And it really rocks your confidence and your identity, and you carry those things throughout your life as those wounds that you've incurred, that we all incur to some degree. That those holes start to get bigger and bigger, until we finally decide we wanna do something. So, thinking back on this, I've identified 7 things that I think make a difference in a person's life, and I don't care where you're at in your life right now. If you focus on these 7 things moving forward, your life will begin to change. I fully believe that. I don't know why this picture's in here. Maybe I just wanted to be entertaining, but this is my boy CJ, aka C Murder, and this was from high school. This is my junior year. CJ was a senior. He actually lived with us for a year, which was lived with me and my grandparents, which was kind of fun, fun and interesting, being a kid and having one of your best friends live with you every day was an adventure. And this was on some day before a basketball game, and we had these maroon warm-ups, but we were like kind of rebellious, and we thought we were cool, so we turned them inside out. And I don't know what inspired us to take this picture, but yeah, so that's in here. Maybe the reason why I put it in here will come back to me, but on to the next thing. Alright, so the answer, and there's a couple of these, so let's take these one by one. The first one is, you got to realize that there's someone in your life who really cares about you. And I've run across people, we all know people who say, I'm all alone, no one cares about me. But in reality, that's not true. Unless you have absolutely no family. Well, I'd even beg to matter, it wouldn't even matter if you have no family. I can't say this definitively, but I'd be willing to bet that everybody has at least one person who cares about them. It may be a grandpa, it may be an aunt, it may be a good friend. Nobody is out there absolutely alone in the world. It just doesn't happen. And you need to realize that, right? Like that you mean something to someone. There is someone that you mean something to. A great deal, in fact. And for a lot of us, there's a lot of people that we mean a lot to, that really care about us. And when times get hard, it's natural to have this pity party and to think that no one cares about you. Well, that's just a lie, and that's just a distraction and a tactic that the devil tries to do to get us to isolate ourselves, so he can get us alone and work us over. So the first one is, realize that there is someone in your life who really cares about you. And I'd even say take that a step further, is go talk to that person, right? Have the courage to go see that person. And maybe you don't talk about what's going on in your life. Maybe you just check in with that person and see how they're doing, and spend a little time with them. And as you spend time with them, your attitude is going to change. Your mood is going to change. Being around someone who cares can be absolutely life-changing. What's coming to my mind is I'm thinking of this time where I was involved in this other men's group, and we were meeting pretty frequently. And one night we had a newer guy come back, and he had been there maybe once or twice, but tonight was different because you could obviously see that there was really something dark and heavy on him. I mean, his whole countenance was very somber and very, he just didn't look like himself. He didn't, it was very dark, and you could tell there was maybe a lot of anger or something that was going on behind there. And as we learned what he was dealing with, when we were able to come around him and just love on him, right? Just be his friend, just be there for him. Immediately his whole countenance changed. His whole posture, his whole face, like the color came back to his skin. His eyes were no longer dark and just dark and like kind of like angry and evil. There was life there. There was a sparkle there. He was starting to smile. And be what we learned later was his natural outgoing self, and that all came simply because he was around people that cared for him. Life is too short, right? We all know we don't want to be around negative people, but if you're in a place where you need a pick-me-up, and you need to I guess get some leverage on your life and get some momentum going in a positive direction, you got to find that person who really cares about you in your life and spend some time with them, and go from there. And it'll make a world of difference when you do that. The second thing is you want to surround yourself with people who tell you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear. And this is becoming more and more of a problem each and every day in our society. Is people don't know how to distinguish who their real friends are, right? You hear people say, well, I got 5,000 friends on Facebook. Okay, 5,000 friends? I'd argue that you have 5,000 acquaintances, because I guarantee I guarantee 98% of those people don't really know anything about you. They may know the stuff you're putting on Facebook, right? Because who puts all their business out on Facebook? Most people just show all the glory stories, right? They don't really ever talk about the hard, the deep things, right? So those people They don't know you. And I thought I heard of something one time, a statistic that said, like, if you die and you've had, like, I think it was 5 close relationships in your life, uh, I don't remember the statistic, but it's something like, you're considered extremely lucky. Because most people have, like, 1 or 2. And I think about my own life right now, and I probably have 2 or 3 people, other than my wife, that I'm extremely close with, that really know me, that really understand me, and that I've shared um, uh, deep stuff with. And then that's good, right? And I trust those people because I know those people will tell me what I need to hear. They're not just going to feed me lip service. They're not just going to, BS me. They're not going to just inflate my ego, right? If they see me doing something wrong, they're going to speak up and tell me that. If they see me headed towards, a place where I could get myself in trouble, they're going to speak up and tell me that, and I was fortunate. I had those same type of people in my life when I was in high school and in college, when I would, start to go off the path and get into stuff that maybe I shouldn't be. I had a couple key people who would tell me exactly what I need to hear. And one, I had given them permission, which is important, right? Like, it's giving these people permission to do that. Not to say that they even need your permission, but it just helps with the relationship and the communication part. But 2, they love me enough to speak out and to say those things, and they completely changed my life. They changed the trajectory of my life more than once, right? So you gotta find people who are gonna tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Now, how do you make that distinction? Some quick examples, right? Like, so I don't know, if you're going out and you're just getting blitzed every night, or your main objective is to just go out and sleep around with as many girls as possible. That's all. That's your everything. I am going to. I'm going to wager that that is not making you a better person. That is not taking you to a better place long term. And you're going to know the people in your life that are telling you what you need to hear is the people that are telling you that that's not what you want to do, because it's not beneficial to you in the long term. They're not looking out for their own good, right? Their own well-being. Because maybe, when you go out, like, they're your wingman and you buy all the drinks or you pay for everything, right? So they never really say what they think. They just, they're just a yes person, right? That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for the person that says, "Hey man, I see what you're doing, like, this isn't you, like, you're better than that. Why do you want to do that? What are we going to gain out of this? Don't we want more from life, right?" Like, they're there to push you to a new level by being honest with you, by being direct with you. Sometimes, to find those people out, you got to ask a tough question. Hey, what do you think about this? Should I do this? And hear what they have to say. And then be able to discern if they're talking about your best interest, or if they're somehow worried about how that decision might affect them. The third thing, right, and this one's huge too, is you got to get out of your bubble. I mean, and there's so many bubbles, right? You got to get out of your neighborhood bubble. So maybe you've only been around your city. You don't have any idea, other than what you see on TV or in the movies, of what's out there in the world. You've never experienced it for yourself. And that firsthand experience is extremely important and extremely empowering. I remember the first time that I went outside the country. I was fortunate enough to where my grandpa took me to South America, and it just changed my whole perspective on life. It just opened me up to that there's so much that this world has to offer us, and that we do have opportunities to go out there and explore it, and to get it, and to earn it, whatever that may be. And you don't open yourself up, you don't unlock the potential that you really have inside yourself until you get out of the bubble, because that's the only thing that you know. You only know what you're around every single day, what's constantly being said to you, what you're constantly seeing, what you're constantly feeding yourself. And when you're in this bubble, whether it's a community bubble, whether it's you're at a certain college and that's all you know, or maybe you've only been in your state, or maybe you've only been in the United States. There's so much more out there. And I'm a big believer that experience is one of the best teachers. And if you can get out of your bubble and expose yourself to new things, that you will continue to grow in new ways that you never thought of, or never had the experience of you never had the experience of experiencing before. Holy cow. Alright, next one. This one's a big one too, right? And especially I know there's some women that listen to this. They probably don't have as much problem as us guys do, for whatever reason. We find it so hard to ask for help. And I don't know if that's because of some social construct, or if it's just guys have more pride, whatever it is. But if you want to change your life, you need to ask for help. There is no shame in reaching out, in asking for help, and in finding that. I don't know why, but this just comes to me in my mind right now. I was going through a time where I'm like, I need to talk to somebody that has some skills, and that is a professional. Because right now I don't feel like I have the skills or the tools to effectively deal with the situation that I was in. And I sought out some professional help. I went and seen a counselor, and it's this time, and I've seen a few different counselors over the years when I've been stuck. And this time it wasn't the most pleasant experience. It started off good, but then the counselor, every time we would meet, he would just talk about himself the whole time. And I had never experienced that, so I had to stop going. But I don't know why I tell you that story. I guess the reason I tell you that is, right, like, you got to take a chance. You got to go out there and you got to ask for help. And then if you go to the person and you ask for help and you're not getting what you need to be able to walk away from that and then go try someone else, or go find the help that you need. What you want, nothing happens, nothing changes unless you're willing to ask for help. So that was number 4. Number 5, we talked about this. It's kind of ironic. We talked about this on Man Up Friday, and that's get yourself a mentor. Everybody needs a mentor. Preferably you want someone who is in the next stage of your life. So if you're in your 20s, right, and maybe you're single, you want somebody who's married and in their 30s. If you're in your 30s and you've been married for a while, you want someone in their 40s or maybe their 50s who's been married and knows what's coming next in life, and so on and so forth. Right, and the reason you need a mentor is because you need to be able to tap into the wisdom that they have to share with you, right? Because they've already experienced certain things in life that you're going to be coming up against, and they can be your guiding light through that period of time, and they can save you a whole lot of hurt, a whole lot of hassle, and a whole lot of heartache. And we talked about that in detail on Friday. So if you're interested, more particulars on finding a mentor and what that looks like, watch the video from Friday, and then for the next probably 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be diving into more about what a good mentor looks like. So that was number 5. Number 6, believe in a higher purpose. And when I say this, I don't mean like I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. But I'm not here to tell you what to believe in. This is not the time or the place for that. But what it is the time and the place to tell you is that science has proven that people who believe in something bigger than themselves, whether it's a God, whether it's a cause, that they go farther in life, and they're able to, when the crap hits the fan, they're able to more appropriately deal with that and persevere through those types of situations. Hands down, without a doubt. That's because they have purpose, right? They have hope in something bigger than themselves. And we all need that, right? It's like a little, in my mind's eye, I see like being down in this hole and feeling desperate, like there's no way out. And then this higher purpose is this rope that gets dropped down into the hole, and all you do is have to reach up and grab onto it, and it helps pull you out of the hole. So believe in a higher purpose. And number 7, finally, tell the truth. You want to make rapid shifts and gains in your life, in your quality of life, in whatever it is that you're, I guess, aspiring to be. You got to start telling the truth. And what I'm talking about is, I'm not talking about lies, like because you want to get out of trouble, right? You shouldn't do that either. But I'm talking about, especially to the men, right? Acknowledging how you feel about things instead of pushing it down and just ignoring it. And I'm as guilty as anybody in doing that, right? But my life has changed a lot over the last couple of years, because I've gotten to a point where, and I don't, and I'm still working on this and making it more consistent, but where I'm acknowledging how I actually feel about things, in trying not to say, oh, that wasn't a big deal, or oh, yeah, that doesn't matter, when in fact it was a big deal. It does matter. And this is how I felt about it. I felt angry, I felt happy, I felt sad, I felt lonely, right? Like being able to acknowledge how you feel in the moment. I can't tell you how huge that is, right? Like we were given this heart, right? Like if you're struggling in your marriage right now, one of the main reasons that you're struggling in your marriage is because, and this is for the men, is because your wife hasn't seen your heart in a long time. That guy that she married, that showed up, that pursued her, that did all this stuff, was all those things, right? That was showing her his heart. And whatever has happened because of life, because of circumstances, you covered your heart up. You've buried your heart. And sometimes it's necessary to do that, right? To push through an extremely difficult situation or an extremely difficult period of time. But now, you got to find a way to unlock that heart, to bring that heart back, and to be able to show that heart to your wife, to be able to show that heart to your kids, to be able to show that heart to those around you, right? To live authentically from your heart. So I would just want to encourage you, if that's you and you find yourself in that place, where you're not sure what's going on with your marriage. Um, as a believer, I would say ask God to reveal. God, well, like, what's going on in my heart? What's locked up in there? What have I been hiding away? If you're not a believer, you need to ask yourself some hard questions. Why can I not show up? Why can I not show my heart to my spouse? Is there a rejection there? Is there fear? How did those things get there? Where did those things come from? How am I going to let go of those things and be able to move on and be authentic and be able to show up? One of the biggest breakthroughs for me, and I'll just end with this story, and then we'll wrap it up here, right? And this goes to telling the truth. Is me and Jody were having we got into some nuclear fallout type fight. I don't even remember what it was about, but I was going to go to church that night because there was these classes at our church, and they were on different subjects like fear, and I don't even remember what the other ones were, but this was like I was going to go to this one particular class because I would remember reading about it in the Sunday bulletin. So I went to church, and I went to the room that I thought this class was in, and I sat down, and they started the class, and the lady started talking, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, this isn't the class that I wanted to go to, but God is good, and that was the class that I needed to be in. And she started to talk about fear, and she started asking all these questions, and I started to think about them, and then there was some quiet time and some time of prayer, and she told us to ask God to reveal some things. And so I went into prayer, and I asked God some questions, and God showed me that I was a control freak. And it blew my mind, because I'm probably one of the most laid back people that I know. And my response to God was, I'm not a control freak. What are you talking about? And he said, you're not a control freak in the sense that everything has to be your way, like Mike's way or the highway. He said, you're a control freak in that you are a people pleaser, and you don't put your foot down, and you do whatever you can to make those around you feel as comfortable and as good as possible about you or about whatever situation you're in, so that they can never leave you. And that's how you try to manipulate the situation. And he told me, that's not possible, because humans have free will, and it doesn't matter what you do for a person, how good you treat them. If they want to leave, they can leave. It's not up to you. And I tell you what, like, that revelation, in finally acknowledging that, right, and to stop lying to myself that I could control the situation and to stop that from ever happening again, feeling the abandonment that I felt when my dad left me. I mean, it was like a ton of bricks off my back, and it gave me courage, and it gave me strength and hope to let my heart out again, right? And from that point, little by little, I started to do that, with my wife, and it's made a big difference in our relationship. Definitely wasn't easy. It's definitely very scary at times, but that was some truth that I needed, and it was true, and our wives, they want to see our hearts. Right, as men, they want to see our hearts. There's a time and a place to be strong, and all that other stuff. But the heart, that's where it's at. So those are the 7 things that I firmly believe if you focus on and you take time to think about, they will change your life and take you to a new level. So I appreciate you guys watching this video tonight, and for all your support. and how this thing has grown from just an idea that I didn't want to do, to this thing where it's reaching men all over the world, and men are waking up to the possibility of the power that they have, but also the responsibility and the honor that comes with that. Like, that's the biggest piece, you know. I was recently interviewed on a podcast by my good friend Clay at Plan A with Clay, and he asked me, what does the world need more of? And the world needs more of love, but more importantly, more honor, and those things go hand in hand. So, hope you guys have a good night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for My Life Monday. Thanks for tuning in. Love you guys. Bye.